Welcome, everyone, to episode 59 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I'm your host, a reality inside the ring, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, a low-down, dirty, no-good, modern-day beatnik, fruit booty, Kyle Hoagland.
Thank you so much. I was really hoping we weren't going to just wait until the interview to discuss the most amazing TBS G-rated approved insult I've ever heard in my life.
That is from the 110th Street of Harlem, right there. That is what the thugs of Harlem, the downtrodden, the street, you know, that is the lingo. That is what the gangs are saying there. That's
a death sentence on the street if you are labeled as one of those guys.
It's no worse than that. I mean, that'll get your ass kicked. How are you doing today on this Thunder 59?
Hey, get your taxes done, guys. I'm feeling pretty good. I've been trying. I think the last 4 or 5 recordings, I've been choosing a different beverage to enjoy during our recording, and obviously we don't have any sponsors or anything right now.
We're not sponsored by Surge, but I'm working on it.
We're working on it. If they ever once again randomly come back for a summer. I'm enjoying a Cider Boys. I think it's called Graham Mimosa, which is like an apple orange hard cider. I will by the end of the episode, there's a little tease that's not wrestling related. I'll let you know if I enjoy it.
Well, I look forward to that almost as much as I look forward to this April 15th, 1999 edition of Thunder, where we are live as live can be here from Orlando, Florida. Mike Tenay bringing us in, and man, I gotta say, I do not get excited for Mike Tenay bringing us in.
I don't either. He just sounds like he's about to let us know that who's going to be the first foursome coming off the tee at the Masters. That's the excitement he gives us most of the time. Don't get me wrong. Tenay has a place in a.
It is not the lead commentator on WCW Thunder, though, or any live show. He's a great secondary, a nice addition to a group, a good man to kind of discuss the moves, break down the action, even drop some newsworthy tidbits. But to hype me up for a 2-hour show, leave that to Tony Schiavone.
Would you rather have, if we were to look at all the other guys that maybe you consider hype guys, would you take Eric Bischoff overall over Tenay, or Vince McMahon over Tenay? Or do you think that even though Tenay's a little staler, you still think he's more important on the show than one of those guys?
I would take Vince McMahon for sure. Bischoff, I don't know. He was never great to me on commentary, so I don't know. That's a tough one there.
I got you. I always felt like Eric Bischoff was I wouldn't say underrated. I maybe underappreciated, and I think better than what people. I think when you have someone like Schiavone that is the complete other side of the spectrum of hype, that anybody else on in WCW, it's hard to grasp onto anybody else. I thought Bischoff did well for what he was good at. He wasn't gonna call the matches down and be able to explain a lot of the psychology of it like Tenay can. He's also not going to sell a Ciclope versus El Danny match the way Schiavone probably could. But I don't know. I think I always appreciated Bischoff for trying.
Well, I won't appreciate Tenay for trying, but he is going to try anyways. He's going to let us know our new heavyweight champion. Of course, this is on the heels of Spring Stampede. We have a new world champion, Kyle. Diamond Dallas Page, your new world champion. First time WCW World Heavyweight Champion. He starts his reign, and he will be wrestling here tonight, as well as Rey Mysterio Jr. and Juventud Guerrera, who beat Blitzkrieg for #1 contendership, is going to get that cruiserweight title match here tonight.
If you had, by the way, going back to DDP, if you had $1,000 and you knew, especially with all the storyline going into Spring Stampede, and you were allowed to invest a certain amount of that money on who you think would have won that Four Corners match, how much money would you have put on DDP?
I would have put somewhere between the vicinity of $1 and $5 because he would have been far and beyond my least likely candidate to win that. I would have even thought Macho Man as a special guest referee had a better chance of winning the world title than that.
That's exactly what I thought. I mean, obviously we know that he was going to be champion. going into this. I also found it funny that we're talking about the Cruiserweight title. Hoovy actually got his Cruiserweight title match on Nitro, but I guess this is like a return bout.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit when we find out why they get that return bout tonight, even though they're supposed to have their match on Nitro. That said, we get, Larry Zbyszko, of course, going to join Tenay, and man, this team, it's going to be rough for me listening to them, but we're going to have to. Larry Zbyszko's going to get up for all those chants. I got to admit, I didn't hear one single iota of a sound that even resembled Larry. I think at this point, he just stands up to feed his own ego.
I think they chanted for him later in the show, but for that particular time, I don't think so. I mean, once again, it's not...
Tenay even said, oh, are they chanting Larry? Like, no, they're not fucking chanting Larry. Like, sit your ass down, Larry Zbyszko.
Also, it's very awkward because I feel like, did you notice that Tenay didn't even look like he knew what he was supposed to do? Like, he was out of his body as he's like, all right, well, let's talk about what's going on. And Larry's gone. And so he actually, it's almost like the whole show stopped. Whereas, if you watch Nitro, and it'll be like Shivani, they just keep going because usually Shivani has Heenan. It'll be and Zbyszko. Right. So Zbyszko goes and walks away. That's totally fine. Shivani can go over to Heenan. He can rely on Heenan to talk about anything for 30 seconds until he comes back. But because Tenay's by himself and he needs to, kind of rely on his color commentator to talk about stuff, and he walks away. So then Tenay's like, oh, look at him go to the crowd. And then he kind of sits there with a shit-eating grin on his face, trying to trigger, what the fuck do I do for the next 20 seconds?
Yeah, but they do talk. Larry does get back on the microphone and talks about DDP and how he shines like diamonds in the highest tax brackets. He's worth his weight in gold and every other metaphor he can possibly say. But finally, we are saved from commentary with this opening bout. Buff Bagwell and El Vampiro wrestling tonight, which I got to admit is actually a decent Thunder opening and one I wasn't sure who was going to win. We find out during the match, though, Gorgeous George, of course, Macho Man's lovely valet, will be wrestling Charles Robinson at Slamboree to reinstate Macho Man, so already Slamboree's card just heating up in major ways. We do get a 13-count punch during this match, which is something. The match, though, pretty slow for Buff and Vampiro. I felt like Vampiro did a lot of holds in this match. Ultimately, though, Vampiro is going to hit a rock bottom. It's not going to be enough. The Blockbuster is going to come in for the clean win. I gave it 2.25 stars. I was surprised Buff won it cleanly like he did, but they are pushing him now that he's out of the NWO, so I guess it makes a little bit of sense. Solid opener for Thunder, though.
Yeah, I liked it. I only gave it 2 stars, which is, once again, nothing really against it. But I almost thought about going a 1.75 stars because of how clunky and awkward this match kind of got. I still feel like El Vampiro doesn't have the chemistry with the guys in WCW yet. I know that Buff Bagwell sometimes will, follow the beat of a different drum sometimes. So I think both of them weren't on the same page. There were a lot of times where it looked like Vampiro was trying to lock him up into something, and then he would completely stop. He would put him in a submission hold. And then when he realized that Buff Bagwell wasn't trying to go for the ropes, he would just break it. Which is like one of those weird things. Like he had him in like a cross arm breaker in the middle of the ring. And instead of like Buff Bagwell just kind of like trying to shimmy his way to one of the ropes, Vampiro just breaks the hold because obviously he's not supposed to go over, so he has to lose, so he needs to break the hold. But yeah, I thought it was a little too awkward and clunky in certain occasions. I did feel like towards the end, maybe the last 2 or 3 minutes of the match made up for it. I think Buff definitely deserved to have a win. He's trying to kind of re-find himself as far as being I don't know what you would call it, I guess a face. Or just, I think he's still got the same persona. He's just doing it as part of WCW. It doesn't really align with anybody else that is shitty. So I think he's kind of in this weird purgatory. We don't know how to feel about Vampiro yet, personally, or at least not right now anyways. After this, Kyle, we move to our Wrath match of the night. In the ring here with Jerry Flynn.
We do find out that at Slamboree, the world title is on the line. DDP defending it against Kevin Nash, because apparently Kevin Nash made a deal with Ric Flair where if he helped Ric Flair retain his title or something, he's going to get this title match, but now Flair's not champion, so I don't know. But we get Nash and DDP. We do find out from Larry Zbyszko, if you make a deal with the devil, it requires a soul. So, thanks, Larry. We also find out that Hogan's having knee surgery, a storyline that they played off in their Four Corners match. And it makes me wonder, I don't know if this knee surgery is legit or not. Hogan didn't wrestle most of Spring Stampede. If the knee surgery is legit, I wonder if he needed this, and that's why they moved to the Four Corner match as opposed to just Hogan and Flair, because they knew they were going to have to kind of protect Hogan.
If it's anything involving his history, I mean, the guy I think has had something along the lines of like almost 24 knee surgeries in his career. So I wouldn't be shocked if he had to get something done with his knee.
So it makes a little bit more sense. You actually commented in this match, Wrath's going to go off the top and go for a clothesline and appear to actually hurt himself. This is going to lead to the two of them battling on the outside, ultimately a double countout. I didn't catch it that he had hurt himself, so I guess the double countout makes sense if they try to change the story here with how they were going to finish it if Wrath couldn't wrestle. But they do battle on the outside for a while, so I don't know. If it was meant to be that way, then okay, I get. I mean, if it wasn't meant to be and they just played it off with the double countout, fine. If that's how they wrote this match to end, then this is a horseshit match.
Oh, I agree. And the only reason why I caught it was because I felt like the mannerisms of the match totally changed after the clothesline. Plus, he was hobbling a lot. And there was no reason to hobble. He wasn't selling anything that Jerry Flynn had done to him yet. He was doing weird stuff, like he was doing some choking. He would just punch him in the face while he was lying on the ground. When the double countout finally happened, it looked like Wrath was just kind of trying to shove Flynn out of the way, and Flynn like oversold it and went into the stairs. And the only thing I laughed about this was that while I could tell that clearly there's something wrong, Jerry Flynn was like then delivering kicks to like his thigh and the back of his knee. And I'm like, dude, stop doing that. All I felt to myself was like, oh my God, that's the knee he's like limping on. But yes, definitely legitimately, he definitely got hurt. Like there's nothing about Jerry Flynn versus Wrath in the Wrath match of the night that would result in them just kind of duking it out on the outside out of nowhere like that. So I definitely believe that there's an injury involved here. Hopefully it's not for too long, because obviously Wrath match of the night is a mainstay on this podcast.
Yes, it is. And Mike Tenay continuing to ask why Wrath is not in a championship match. So we'll see if Tenay's able to get the WCW Championship Committee to listen and grant us that Wrath Championship match.
Well, it's either that or he's got to book some knee surgery with Hollywood Hogan.
Speaking of Hogan, Horace Hogan's in our next match against Meng, and it's about as exciting as you can expect from a Horace and Meng match. We do find out during the match that apparently Sting was on the Rampage fighting Flair and the rest of the Horsemen. Mike Tenay is going to call Meng thick, and Horace is going to go for some sort of sunset flip, but Meng is going to hit the Tongan death grip. I gave the match 2 stars because I felt it was about as good of a match as you're going to get out of Horace, Hogan, and Meng together. And we do find out that the Tongan death grip is the claw hold of the 90s. So, 2 stars.
I see what they were trying to do there. I gave it a star and 3/4. Offense was stale. There were just a lot of punches. I am on the belief right now, as far as recent history, that Horace Hogan has one of the worst punches in the business, and we've seen Hacksaw Jim Duggan deliver a punch. So it's just, oh God, they were so bad. It looked like he was just doing like really slow clubs to the top of the head. A lot of choking, poorly timed kicks. I did like the counter sunset flip into the Tongan death grip. I thought that was a cool way. Although at the same time, I would have liked it more. I would have liked it if Meng just did it instead of his
pumping up for it and going rah, down into it. Yeah, I agree.
It looked like he was about to do the people's elbow and then goes into the Tongan death grip. But no, like I said, that was enough. It wasn't enough to save this kind of clusterfuck of a match from a sub 2-star rating for my taste.
Yep, don't disagree with you there. After this match, we go backstage and we've got Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Charles Robinson kind of hanging out in the background. He's now become, of course, Flair's lackey here. They talk about it a lot throughout the show, about how Charles Robinson grew up idolizing Ric Flair, and now he's his basically referee in his pocket. A woman comes in with some paperwork for Ric Flair to sign. He goes ahead and just starts signing off on it, which Arn Anderson cannot believe that he's not reading anything. He's not looking at the details, the fine print here. He's just signing things off, and Ric Flair says, "I'm the president of the United States," which Arn Anderson reminds him many times during this and future promos tonight that he is just president of WCW. The secretary leaves. Arn wants her back in there, and Flair continues to say he's not worried. After this, do you have something you wanted to add to that?
No, I had nothing.
Okay.
The only thing I laughed about was the fact that those guys are, the four horsemen, the style and profile and, limousine riding, all that jazz. And there's Charles Robinson with a bottle of water and 2 wine glasses serving these 2 guys. And I'm like, that is not what Ric Flair drinks. Just
Nope.
Bottled water in a wine glass. Come on, guys.
At least he had fancy enough to go in a wine glass.
That's true.
After this, Mikey Ripwreck wrestling Disco Inferno. You make a comment. This is the 4th match of the night and the 4th referee of the night, which is kind of unique.
We've seen Thunders where Mickey J reffed every single match. So, yes, this is very weird. All I'm waiting for is, Mark Curtis to, come out of nowhere and ref a match, even though I don't know at this point if he's already passed or if he's right now in
yet.
I know it's probably pretty close, but I know he's battling stomach cancer at this point.
Well, Mikey Ripwreck was battling Disco Inferno in this match, and it was decent, back and forth. Commentary team, I laughed at one point. We're discussing how Disco was focused more on the match lately and doesn't dance. He's literally dancing on the second rope while they are saying that. I thought Mikey Ripwreck had some unique offense during this match at times, including kind of like a springboard into like a snapmare takedown from the apron into the ring, which I thought was unique. We do get a pile driver from Disco Inferno, and then we get a swinging neckbreaker that kind of goes into the Last Dance, or the, stunner, whatever you want to call it. I gave it 2.25 stars. I thought it was a solid match. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. You seem to really like it, though, Kyle.
I did. This also just might have to do with the fact that we just followed up a Horace Meng match, and maybe I'm just, just my eyes were widened on actually seeing some half decent work. But at the same time, though, I gave it 2.75 stars. Lots of near falls. For a 13-minute match, it was actually nicely paced. It didn't feel like it was 13 minutes long. Like usually on some matches that draw out.
That's how long it was.
Right, and that's another reason why I think I gave this a decent rating. I'm like, wow, this actually was a long match, and it didn't feel like it. It felt like it was well paced. I feel like both guys got their offense in. It looked like either guy could have come out on top of this. It didn't look like Disco was just squashing. Mikey Whipwreck was definitely making his comebacks. Ultimately, the right guy won. As much as I do like Mikey. I also like the new variation that Disco added to the Last Dance. It looked like he kind of did like a kidney punch from behind, and then kind of set him up like he was going to do like a Scorpion Death Drop, and then kind of did like a swinging neck breaker the opposite way and dropped it into the Last Dance. And it's always good to see a pile driver. I've said this before. It's like a 4-leaf clover. So overall, I think it checked off a lot of boxes for me, and it was so far the most entertaining match of the night. So 2.75.
Can't argue most of that. 2 other side notes. We do find out during the match, Juventud and Rey Mysterio for the title tonight because Dean and Chris interfered during their title match on Monday Nitro. So that is why the rematch is taking place tonight for the title. And also, Mike Tenay thinks DDP hurt Hogan's knee on purpose. So Tenay playing some angle that DDP is actually a heel, I thought that was incredibly strange right here.
I don't know if it's strange as much as just if you were to kind of read the storyline of the past year and a half that DDP hates Hogan. So if he got a chance to get his hands on Hogan, Hogan has had an angle where he was threatening his wife, and obviously the matches with Leno and Malone, and so I can get it where if he gets a chance to get in the ring against Hogan, that he might get a little more violent with him because they have some beef. But I think it is true that I do understand that Tenay kind of hitting it home that DDP was acting malicious instead of acting righteous, which is usually whenever like a face is doing like dirty tactics or being overly violent, it's always like, hey, you know, that guy had what's coming to him and he's finally getting his justice on this guy. Tenay is definitely not playing that card at all.
Not in the least bit. After this, Mean Gene is in the ring, and he's going to bring out the entire NWOB team, led by their new leader, Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray tells Gene that he thinks he gets paid too much, and he should just hold the mic and shut up, which I got to be honest, that's not Gene's deal at all. You know, he needs to talk. Stevie Ray basically says that we are not the NWOB team. We are not the Keystone Cops. He says, you know, then he starts to say that Hollywood Hogan don't got it anymore. He doesn't like that Nash is making these deals. So here's Stevie Ray, leader of the NWO Black and White, trying to burn his bridges against the Wolfpack. Gene is going to ask where Scott Norton is because he is not joining this team. And Stevie Ray's talking about how he's beating all these Japanese dudes over in Japan on his way to hopefully win another IWGP World title. He then challenges Diamond Dallas Page for the world title tonight, which is a little ballsy, and then says he's going to pimp slap Kimberley if she tries to interfere or show up around the ring. He then tells Horace that Horace doesn't have to listen to his uncle anymore, continues to tell Gene to shut up, and then he says, you know, Stevie Ray, you're going to get on here and call me Stevie Scum Ray, and calls him lame, and I got to admit, that cracked me up.
It was very accurate. I also found it very weird that a man, once again, this is also a guy that called him a fruit booty, but at the same time, Stevie Ray, once again, he's portrayed as a thug from the streets of Harlem, and the fact that he knows who the Keystone Cops are, I don't even know who the Keystone Cops are. I had to wiki that shit just 30 seconds ago. Apparently, it's a silent film slapstick comedy from the it was in the teens, like 1912 to 1917, of like incompetent policemen. Kind of like a Laurel and Hardy type of thing, or like a Charlie Chaplin, kind of like a comedy shtick thing. And when he first said that, we're not Keystone Cops. I'm like, is Keystone like a suburb of New York that I'm not aware of, where they have stupid cops, or something where maybe I could be like, oh, that's why Stevie Ray understands the reference. Not the fact that it's a 1912 silent film slapstick comedy, like. That was just so out of character. That's what the problem is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Also, just a side note, I did some investigation on Mark Curtis. He's alive till September of '99, so we've got another 5 months of him.
All right, but I don't believe. I'm trying to figure out whether or not he's already reffed his last match for WCW. I think he has.
Maybe for WCW, but he does referee pretty much up to his death. So maybe
I think he wrestled for ECW. I think, if I remember correctly, I think he did a little bit of that in late 1990s, 1999.
Could be. After this, though, Raven and Saturn come out. Saturn basically used some big vocabulary. Raven says Raven things, and they basically are saying they want the tag titles. And their first opponents tonight to prove that they deserve the tag titles are your favorite, Kyle, Disorderly Conduct.
Christmas is early.
And they do hold their own, and I gotta admit they're solid enhancement tag team. They do solid work. They of course are gonna lose this match when Raven's gonna get an even flow pin, and Saturn's gonna T-bone suplex the other guy. I gave the match 2 stars. I thought it was solid for what it was, but I really think them beating Disorderly Conduct does nothing to tell me, hey, you know what? Raven and Saturn deserve the tag titles.
I can see where you're coming from there, but I also don't know where Saturn and Raven go from here, and them just being on TV is good enough, depending on who they're fighting. There's not a lot of, as funny as it is that we had this tag team tournament not that long ago, and yet now that it's over, I feel like there's no established tag teams in WCW, other than maybe 2 former singles wrestlers who are now tagging
the tag
up.
Teams in the tournament, established tag teams?
No, that's a good point. But after it was over, none of them are tagging anymore. So they didn't keep tagging afterwards. You know what I mean? So that's the other problem I had with it, was that the tournament's over, and now all these tag teams are now dissolved once the tournament was over. As far as the match itself, I gave it 2.5. I actually really enjoyed this match. I actually would have given it a higher rating, but my problem was Mean Mike was the legal man this match, and Raven even flowed and pinned Tough Tom. You guys got to get that right, especially when you're dealing with me here. Everything was really well. I think that's the reason why I actually got kind of mad about that, because I thought the psychology was really good. I feel like obviously Tough Tom and Mean Mike, they are the epitome of wrestling psychology and, proper tag team mechanics. Saturn and Raven, obviously they know how to wrestle with each other and team with each other. So I felt like between the four of them, they created a really fun match to watch. A lot of hot tags, a lot of fast tags, a lot of double team moves. Once again, it's the kind of offense that you only get from a tag team match, so you want to see it when you have it. So I definitely appreciate that. Both sides, great work rate. But once again, you got to pin the legal man, Raven.
No doubt. After the match, we get our first replay of the night. It's sort of a replay, but basically it's showing Kidman and Ray. And they talk about how they have each other's backs, of course, as their tag team champions here. But Ray is obviously upset with Kidman because there was an attack from Dean and Chris during that match he had with Hoovy, and he's upset that Kidman didn't have him. So, surprise, surprise, Kyle, a tag team in WCW that may be a little dissension among the tag team partners.
I think you and I have been in the agreement that during this time, just in wrestling in general, WWF was also not immune to this. The tag team division or the decision of who they were going to give the straps to for the tag titles during this time was a complete afterthought because of the premise of the world title and who's the big guy, who's the big blockbuster, draw. And because all the big draws are not tag teams, half the time you either give it to a team that nobody gives a shit about, or you give it to almost like you're carrying a storyline. Just like in WCW, you're carrying a storyline of kind of a feud between two friends in a sense, Kidman and Ray, who are basically the number one and number two, and it's probably not even really that close as far as the cruiserweights in WCW, and yet they're going at each other to try and get that belt, but they're also teaming up and having this tag title. You see it a lot in the WWF, where a lot of times like the world champion and like whoever they're fighting, and whoever they're feuding with going into the next pay-per-view, they happen to like just be given the straps just like to force them to get along and coexist, and then then it all, especially when it's two faces. Like when two faces are going to face each other, it's right. Always like you got to give them a reason to hate each other, and it usually comes down to, well, why don't we just give them more titles?
That's one way to do it. That said, we then move into that Cruiserweight Championship match here. Juventud Guerrera, Rey Mysterio Jr. We get a Bronco Buster, which may have been the quickest Bronco Buster in the history of Bronco Busters during this match. But the match, I had a problem with this, and you had a problem with this too. Rey Mysterio and Hoovy, Hoovy's, I don't know if he's a face or a heel here. I guess he's supposed to be a heel, maybe, but it doesn't really matter. I thought it was crazy how often during this match each of them taunted or tried to pump up the crowd and get themselves over, or try to, kind of yell with the crowd, cheer with the crowd, whatever you want to say. It happened way too much for a cruiserweight match between Hoovy and Rey Mysterio Jr. But it happens a lot here, and I don't know why. We then also get a Hoovy elbow, apparently, which I didn't know was a thing. We find out that Benoit and Malenko are going to get a tag team title match this Saturday night. So that's our Saturday night promo, Kyle, because it's the only time it happens during the entire show. Hoovy is going to hit a Hoovy driver, but of course he takes too much time after. He is going to go up for a 450. Ray's going to knock him down. Ultimately going to hit the top rope Frankensteiner. I gave the match 2.5 stars. I thought I enjoyed it, but it wasn't as high octane or fast at times. It was good back and forth, and for a Thunder title match, I liked it from the aspect of I felt like Hoovy had a shot to win it, but there was just things about it I didn't like, mainly the crowd-pleasing aspect. I
think until the Kidman Ray thing dies down a bit, I think Ray holds onto the title for a little bit longer. I gave it 2.5 stars, and I actually gave that rating as a criticism. I thought it was a nice match overall, but I agree, way too much crowd work. It really slowed down the match when it felt like it had a really good pace. And obviously, we've seen plenty of matches with Ray and Hoovy, other than maybe Ray and Kidman. Although I could venture to say Ray and Hoovy is a more exciting, more fast paced cruiserweight match, and always those are the types of matches that have that chance to really hit that 3.5, 4 star if they really are going at it. These guys know how to wrestle each other, and they could do it in their sleep, which is also the reason why I was kind of disappointed in this match. I think 2.5 stars for a Hoovy Ray match is a disappointing rating. And I think you agree with me with that. This felt like a ho-hum Hoovy Ray
I would
match.
agree with that. Absolutely. After the match, we go backstage with Flair and Charles Robinson again. Apparently, Charles Robinson says something to Flair along the lines of his match the other day was better than him and Steamboat. Arn's going to come in at this point, say he can't find that secretary anymore. Flair continues to tell him to relax, and he's the president. Arn Anderson's going to kick Charles Robinson out and tell him to go find that secretary. Flair's going to tell Robinson to go get Arn a beer. Flair continues to say that, we've got everyone right where we want them. And Arn says, we might rule WCW, but they rule the streets. So, again, we're kind of pushing this. Flair is almost too big for his own britches, kind of getting too his ego's too much here as president of the United States of WCW.
You keep saying that you keep on mentioning the woman, the secretary. So I don't know if you caught this, but she does have a name, and this is how I guess this is how creative. This is how creative that they are. The writing for this is. Her name is Georgia.
I was just saying, is it Georgia? Yeah.
Yeah, she's flew in from Atlanta, and her name is Georgia. Good one. 5 stars.
Yeah, it's pretty priceless. After that, though, we do move to our main event. Stevie Ray getting his world title championship match. Title is on the line. Well-deserved. Out comes Diamond Dallas Page versus the leader of the NWO, Black and White. And DDP, of course, accompanied by the ever-nipply Kimberley here.
Jesus.
Goodness gracious.
That was probably the thinnest dress I've ever seen someone wear.
Props to her. Props to DDP.
Props to air conditioning.
Yes, it was working well here in Orlando on, I'm sure, a hot April day. We do find out DDP has already defended the title once on Monday, so he is a hard-working champion. He is the Fit Finlay of the television title.
That's fair.
We got about 6 minutes for this main event match here between DDP and Stevie Ray. DDP is going to basically wrestle Stevie Ray and Vincent here during this match. They're going to battle on the outside. Stevie Ray is going to lock on a bear hug because that's what we want to see here in 1999 in a world title match. Stevie Ray is also going to yell slapjack before he pins, which I thought was interesting. He is then going to try and execute the slapjack. It's reversed into a back body drop. DDP does this kind of little float around move to hit the diamond cutter. He gets the clean win on Stevie Ray. I gave the match a 1.75 stars. I'm glad DDP won cleanly, I guess, because he's the world champion here. But I also am kind of not glad. I'm talking out of both sides of the mouth here because I don't think Stevie Ray should have jobbed like that. I don't know. I have a hard time with this match. It also wasn't very good. 1.75 stars.
I totally agree. 1.75 stars. From just a match perspective, I think I would have given this 2 stars. It was exciting because it felt like the first 3 minutes of the 6-minute match, they were on the outside kind of duking it out, and Vincent was getting involved, and obviously, what was it, Randy Anderson didn't give a fuck about any of that. Just let him keep wrestling, which is good. That's what you want to do. And I get that you want to let the crowd go home happy. Let DDP get his win in. Let's get Kimberly back in, show off the belt and her nipples. That's fine with me. I hated the booking of this, especially with the timing of Stevie Ray and his ascension. You can say what you want. You can make the jokes that you want that the Black and White is not even really the NWO anymore, whatever you want to say. But this is a big deal, I think. If I was Stevie Ray, I have a storyline. I am the leader of a group, of a stable, and there aren't a whole lot of stables that I feel like that are still hanging around. Hell, even the Wolfpack, it feels like 90% of them are injured or not wrestling. I think right now, like, Kevin Nash is the only active guy on the roster that's in the Wolfpack now. But I feel like Stevie Ray has had this very under the radar push where he's basically won every match that he's had. He had a pretty decent profile match at Stampede to earn the right to be called the leader. He just did an interview with Mean Gene, which was both like classic Stevie Ray, but at the same time pretty hilarious stuff. And it was I would think it was a better promo than I think what normally I'm used to seeing with him. And once again, he's the leader of the NWO. This used to be Hollywood Hogan's baby that he now controls. He's trying to establish himself, and he's even like calling out the Wolfpack. So he's not only like forging his own path, he's burning bridges. So I'm like, this is going to be really interesting. I'm very interested to see what's going to come of Stevie Ray. And then he goes and challenges the world champ. This would have been, in my opinion, a good time for a DQ finish, honestly. Now let DDP look good. Let him maybe like fend off or, ultimately make it where like maybe, I don't know, make it so he doesn't just completely go over and Stevie Ray does the job. And I think that's what you said too, that you were a big fan of Stevie Ray just jobbing so quickly in his like current ascension.
Right.
But once again, this was like what I call a 5-minute nothing burger, and he just jobs the DDP. And I said I wouldn't have been mad if this was a DQ finish. And hell, fuck it, let DDP look strong at the end of it. But what you just basically did was you just built up this like Jenga tower of Stevie Ray and then just knocked it all down in one thunder.
Yep, I agree completely. After the match, the NWO Black and White are going to come out, but DDP is ultimately going to clean house on them as well.
Another thing I fucking hate. One guy taking out an entire stable. Hogan did it like 2 weeks ago with the Horsemen. I hated that too.
Yeah, DDP is going to close the Thunder out, celebrating with the title. That is your Thunder, Kyle. What did you think about this April 15th, 1999 edition of Thunder?
I mean, for the most part, the matches themselves had some good effort in the ring. Once again, you can judge me all you want, but I did really enjoy the Disco Mikey Whipwreck match. Another week where we had some lengthy matches. This week, I was more okay with that than other weeks where we've complained, like, why is Horace Hogan and Bryan Adams fighting the Faces of Fear in a 15-minute match? Like, no one wants to see that. They don't even want to see that. They only want to be in that. I feel like these guys were given a decent amount of time. I think they made the best out of it. I don't think any of us really complained about, wow, this one of these matches was way too long. And maybe one of them might have been Meng and Horace, and I think they only went for like 7 minutes, and that was still too long. I think the thing was, like, I was okay with it with the quality of wrestlers we were given. We may have not had a lot of the A-level star power, the Hogans, the Nashes, the Flairs, or things, anything like that. But we made up with it by having a lot of the workhorses on the show. On top of that, we had a decent cruiserweight title defense. I wish it was better, but it was passable. A fun tag match with Disorderly Conduct. And even the world title was defended. And I feel like that was the worst part of the show, was the world title being defended on Thunder. And it was cool to see it. I feel like that makes up for it. It's kind of like when we talk about, hey, Hogan's main eventing on Thunder, something we'll never see. The match's not exactly great, but it's almost like you appreciate that he made the show and he's actually going out there to entertain and do his job. So it was cool to see the world title up for grabs. Once again, it's DDP. That's the kind of wrestler he is. He likes being on all the shows. He's okay with wrestling every night. Ultimately, though, I felt like this did check a lot of boxes. You had Mean Gene. You had the Flair shenanigans in the back. You had 2 titles defended. I'm going to say it again. Disorderly goddamn conduct in a solid match. Low lights of the show, the Horace and Meng match, obviously, that was to be expected. This whole idea that we're supposed to give any sort of hot shit about the Black and White NWO, once again, that's the whole idea with the main event. I just feel bad that they're playing up this new leadership and this like kind of like remodeling of the Black and White, and then here you go, you have DDP basically just dismantling him by himself. I get it, put over DDP in the main event, everyone gets to go home happy. But once again, we're looking at it from a critical perspective. I really hated the main event. The only thing that saved it was Kimberly's hard nipples.
Can't argue that. I guess we should be happy we had title matches on Thunder. There was some storyline that was discussed. It was fine. I'm curious how Thunder goes is going to be going forward. I feel like they've kind of changed up their format. They've made it, with the whole new logo, new Thunder. I am curious to see where it ends up going. But I got to admit, it's going to be really hard for me to listen to Mike Tenay and Larry Zbyszko for the next 6 months or whatever it's going to be. But that said, that is our Thunder this week. That is our show this week. If you have yet not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to us on whatever podcast listening device you do and use. Leave us a review. Go give us a follow on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, etc., etc. And then, of course, go to thundercraps.com for all of our previous 59 episodes. And then, Kyle, episode 60 of Thunder next week. It is April 22nd, 1999. It's probably pre-taped in Orlando, but maybe we'll get lucky and Kimberley will come out again on a pre-taped Thunder. So, for Kyle Hogan, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thunder Craps podcast.
We are Stevie scummingly out of time. See ya.